Welcome to Oxygen for Educators. This is Michele Kinder. I'm one of your hosts. We're going to be looking at the hard truth that students need more, and simultaneously the adults in the building are feeling under-resourced and overextended. Join us as we elevate the voices of people across the country doing this work. We'll be looking at anxieties, overwhelm, burnout, joy, commitment, and everything in between. We're glad you're here. This space is for you. Hello, folks. This is Michele Kinder. I'm one of the hosts of Oxygen for Educators, and with me is, drumroll please,
Chris Kent Phelps.
Hi, Chris. How are you?
Great. How are you, Michele?
Good. We have the grand privilege of just letting folks know what we're up to and setting up our interview with Sylvia Lopez. And then we'll be back at the end of the interview to just highlight some of the things that popped for us. So I'm excited. I'm excited we're doing this and highlighting people like the amazing Sylvia Lopez today. I just want to give the listeners a heads up that Sylvia Lopez, and I would love for you to speak to this too, is just one of the most extraordinary, unassuming people I've ever met. Her quiet way of being in the world while creating shocking change for individuals in her path and systems in her path is just unmatched. And when you're listening to her, she takes up space in such a humble way. And I just want the listeners to hang on every word she says, because this is a woman who moves mountains and she has so much to teach us. And I know you know Sylvia much better. So what would you have people think about as they go into listening to her interview?
Well, I was going to say yes, and the thing that I love the most about someone who I'm very proud to call a friend is that I have never, in a decade of knowing her, I have never heard anyone say anything but wonderful things about her. She helps everyone who crosses her path, and I don't know anyone else who does that.
Oh, I know someone else who does that. I'm talking to her.
Well, thank you.
Yes,
thank you.
yes.
But yeah, she's remarkable. She's remarkable, and she doesn't share her story often, so I love that you were able to get her to share her story.
Mm-hmm.
I can't stop thinking about it.
Much more, yeah. She is just something. And then we'll meet you on the other side of the interview, listener. We'll kind of debrief and pick out some things that really stood out for us from my conversation with Sylvia. So enjoy the interview, and then we'll meet you on the other side. We are joined here today by Dr. Sylvia Lopez. She is the former director of counseling of the second largest school district in Texas, Dallas. She has over 40 years in the educational space. She served as a school counselor, a principal. Sylvia, check me on this. Elementary, middle, and high?
Yes.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
Amazing. And that's just the beginning. There's so much more. Sylvia is the co-founder of the Lone Star State School Counselor Association, has done incredible advocacy work, and we have the pleasure of getting to spend a little time with you and just pick your brain about your experiences over these years and the state of education present day. Welcome.
Great. Thank you, and thank you for having me on.
Well, let's start thinking about young Sylvia and take us to that decision point of why you got into education in the first place.
That's taken me really far back. Well, when I first started college, I thought I was going to be in the business world, maybe a good secretary, because at the time of my growing up, that's what they aspired women to do. You worked in an office, or you were a nurse, or you were a teacher. But I thought maybe that's what I wanted to do, was be a secretary. Well, during my freshman year, I got a job with an architect as his secretary. I hated every second. And I said, okay, I know this is not for me. So the end of my freshman year, I changed majors and went into education. And I didn't realize how much I loved that area of education, how much I really wanted to teach kids. And then I started thinking about me growing up in an educational system that was not very friendly to people that looked like me. And I just remember so many times where the teacher would just tell my mom at a parent conference saying, oh, just be happy if she even graduates from high school. You know, they all get pregnant and drop out of school. And I was seventh grade at that time, and I would look at her going, what? You know, and I'd look at my mom and her eyes. I mean, you could see those tears welding up in her eyes. And I thought, oh, little did I know, once I heard that so many times from my teachers to my mother, something in me just, I guess it's that thing that my dad has always told me, never let anybody tell you who you are. You decide who you are. And I think that resilience that, you know, you come after me for saying I can't do something, I'm going to prove you wrong. And that has been my lifeline through everything I've gone through. When people say I can't, I'm going to show you differently. So that took me.
And have you've really done that your entire career. You've again and again and again said, "Oh, really? Not me? Just watch me."
Watch me. That's
incredible.
Right. And even as a high school principal, it wasn't very known for females to be in charge of a high school principal. And especially in the Dallas area, that we were probably 5 females that started. And I was one of the 5, maybe 6. And oh my God, from there. And now you look at it, we've got so many female principals and educators, superintendents, you know, because it was dominated male and coaches.
Yes.
So, you know, but, and, you know, I've just had to work. I mean, being a Hispanic person, a female person, and a short person on top of that, you know, you just have to keep on proving, I can do this. I know I can do this. And that's what that's what's pushed me.
And you truly are and were a trailblazer. What does that feel like to now look at the schools across the city and across the state and see so much female leadership, so many Latinas leading?
Yeah, well, it just makes my heart, and seeing these young people coming up, it just makes my heart bounce. And even with the Lone Star State School Counselor Association, when we first found it, you know, and now that was 7 years ago, and now I just sit back and watch the great work happening, such motivation and inspiration that they give me inspiration. I'm like, it's changed, and so many females have come up the ranks, and I'm so proud of those that have. So it's been great.
It's remarkable. Tell me about what made you stay in the education space and try all the different roles, and like what really motivated you to just keep pushing into different administrative spaces?
Well, again, it goes back to my growing up time. And I think it was just the fact, as I reflected back through my years in college, is that I didn't have anyone to look up to. I didn't have a teacher that says, you're going to make it. Instead, I have the teachers that said, just be grateful she graduates. You know, she'll probably want to get pregnant and drop out. You know, so I think it was that I said, there's so many kids that need someone to listen to them and just work with them. And I think that's what drove me. And even as I got into the high school principalship, I said, I didn't have a counselor in high school. Yeah, there were counselors, but they weren't meant for people like me. Because I remember talking to my English teacher and saying, hey, what will it take for me to be in that class? And in that class, you saw them working in groups, you saw them learning. The teacher was teaching. I mean, they were engaged in learning. We, on the other across the hall, we were sitting in rows, and the teacher says, "You're not smart enough to be there. Go back and answer those questions and finish your work." And that's all we had to do. It's a silent classroom. We just read the chapter, answer the questions at the end of the chapter. That was truly my education. And so,
Wow.
and the thing was, those kids had an advantage, but those were what they considered college going kids. We,
Hmm.
people like me, were considered, average kids, probably not going to college. They make whatever career they can make on the side, but not college bound. And I think all of that just motivated me, that I did not want to be a principal like that. I did not want to be an educator like that. I wanted to give these young people a chance, and to know that whatever their dreams are, you can do it if you have that resilient behavior. You want to do it, and no one takes you off that course. You are the only one who can stay the course. So that's what kept
Incredible.
driving.
It's so like it kind of moves me like at the deepest level to think about how much those offhanded comments and that just straight up not allowing you to access the best education because of the color of your skin, because of your gender. And that put you on a specific path, one that was designed to rectify that for all the students that would be in your care. And just to think about how many kids are on a completely different path because of the career of one woman.
Well, I know
It
that
just,
unfortunately, as educators, we don't always see the fruit of our labor with our students. But as they grow older and go into professions, I run into them, and they're dental hygienists, they're something, and I'll run into them, and they'll say, "Oh, do you remember me?" Of course, they look so different from when I remember them as high school kids, and but it's amazing to see years later that they still remember you. I remember as we were at Starbucks, and this young man comes up to me. He says, "Oh my God, you're Miss Lopez." And I said, "Yes." They said, "Do you remember me? I was one of your fifth graders in elementary." And I was like, "Oh my God." He says, "I want you to know I'm getting married. We're living in this city." It was in another city, not Dallas. He says, "And my wife is a teacher, and I told her about you." So, it's those little moments that you go, "Okay, that was good."
oh my gosh. I wish you could see the hairs on my arm are all standing up straight as they can be. Like, that's incredible. And I love your point that so many educators don't get those 15, 20 years later kind of conversations that really show them how much they shifted the trajectory of all of these kids' lives. And what's your advice to them in terms of staying connected to that important legacy type work when the job can be so challenging?
It is very challenging, even nowadays. It's even more so. Um, and all I can say is our kids need teachers. They need someone to listen to them. They need someone they can go to, who they trust. And it is so, so important that they do stay connected with their kids. Just the other day, I met a young lady who's her second year in college. Oh, are you still there? I just lost you.
I'm here, Sylvia. Can you hear me now?
I hear you. I just don't see you anymore. Let me try this again. There you go. Okay.
Okay, good.
But anyway, just 2 nights ago, I met her, and she's her second year in college, and she was just talking exactly what we're talking about. She says, "I wish in my high school years I had someone that just cared about me, that just wanted to listen to me, because maybe my life today would have been so different." And the kids now are still crying for that. They're still wanting that connection. And there is nothing like, yeah, they're in social media, all that, but that does not connect to people. It's about someone they see on a daily basis that they can trust, that they can say, I hear you, you know, let's talk about it, or refer them to someone that they can talk to, that they can trust. Kids nowadays, it's hard for them to find that trusted adult. Who can I go to? I'm really suffering, but no one listens to me. Nobody cares about me, you know, and teachers still have to be open-minded and be ready to to listen to those babies. And it's all about listening. Yeah, teaching's very important, but the other connection is listening. And I've always said to my teachers and my school counselors, I've always said, when the heart is broken, the mind stops thinking. So as so when a child's broken here in their heart, they can't think educationally. They can't think of what you're trying to tell them or teach them. This has got to be worked on first. So I've always carried that little message with me as you work in education, you see a lot of kids who are hurting, and that has to be addressed. And I guess that's what drove me into going into school counseling, because I had my counseling certification for 3 years. I was a teacher and I loved teaching, but I got my counseling certification not so much to be a school counselor, but to know how to help my students better.
Wow.
And then once I did that, then I started seeing what counselors really do on a campus. And I said, oh, if I can help 29 kids, maybe I can help a whole school. So that got me excited. And that's what moved me into the world of counseling. And that's still my passion. Love the world of school counseling.
Yes, your reach extended way beyond the kids in your classrooms to the whole campus at that point.
Right, right.
Say that saying one more time, Sylvia. It was, when the heart is broken.
When the heart is breaking, the mind stops thinking.
When the heart is breaking, the mind stops thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing. Amazing. Perfect summary. Neuroscience in a nutshell. Beautiful. So before we get into some other questions, Sylvia, is there anything else from your background that you want to make sure you share that would help the listeners get a feel for the way that you see the world and the things that shaped you?
Well, again, it's never losing the connection, the human connection. That is so important for our kids, that we've got to continue to create that safe environment, be that trusted adult, work with our kids, because they look like they don't need help, or they'll be like, oh, I'm okay, you know. But really, when you start talking to them, they start breaking down, start telling you how much they are hurting. And we've got to look at all that. We've got to look at kids who are missing school on a daily basis. Why? We've got to start asking those questions. Why are they missing school? Why did this kid go from a straight A or honor class to now he's failing? Why? And so that's the question as a teacher, as a school counselor, as a principal. Always have to ask why. Why is he doing this? What is happening? Something is happening, and you'd be surprised how many stories you hear from that.
That chasing the why and really getting to what is it that's getting in the way of this child thriving is so challenging and so important.
Exactly.
Let's have you talk about something that I think you're uniquely positioned to speak to, because you have the perspective of a counselor and a principal. Can you talk about how important it is for those two people to work well together, and what are some of the things you learned that helped that relationship work well?
Yes, most definitely. There has to be a collaboration between the principal and the school counselors. School counselors are trained in theory about how to be and how to run a school counseling program. But then once they get to a school or a campus, then that's where the real learning comes in. And as a counselor, you have to be very confident about your school counseling program and be able to explain to the principal what you plan to do, how you plan to do it, why you're doing it, and be very straightforward and fix that and continue a collaboration with the principal. And sometimes counselors are a little fearful of having that conversation. So when that happens, then the principal just feels they can just use the counselor any which way they want. I need you to do lunchroom duty from 10:30 till 11:30. Well, that's a lot of hours in a day that you could be using to work with kids. Or, and they start misusing, as we call them, non-counseling duties. And then the counselor gets into that little trap of, well, I'll just report to school whatever the principal wants me to do. And that's probably the worst attitude to have, because once you get into that mindset, well, I'll just do whatever the principal wants me to do, you never work with the school counseling program. And a school counselor is there for students. They're not there to please an adult. You're there for students. That's your number one client, are the students. So I have to always tell my counselors, stick to your guns, stick to your program. You know what your program is. Let the principal know why you're doing this and show them data. Principals speak data. Show them data. We have this many kids missing class. Why are they missing class? I bet you I can put in a program based on school counseling that will help them get back in class. Or let me try to decrease the number of students seeing the assistant principal for a consequence. Let me try to work with those kids. So there's a lot of opportunities. Counselors just have to be very motivated and passionate about why they're doing what they're doing. And again, it's all about kids. And a former boss of mine, when he hired me to be a principal, he said, which I always kept in mind, he says, if you do anything or everything for students, you will never go wrong. And I truly believe that. And as a principal, every decision I made was based on students. What was best for our students? And those teachers who did not want to believe in that, they moved on, But we were a school-oriented building, and we were going to provide that safe zone for all our students, not just for some, but all. And that's what I tell our counselors. We are here to be the advocate for our students. If they don't have someone to advocate for them, it's us. We are the school counselors.
Oh my gosh, I can hear the level of clarity in your voice is just off the charts. And I'm curious if that level of clarity at the campus level really motivated you to start the Lone Star Counseling Association and also to do the advocacy work you did in Austin on behalf of school counselors. Talk to us about how that campus work led you to then play at the state level to make a difference for kids across the state.
Well, we knew school counselors are very special people, and they never get the recognition. The work that they do is very passionate, and some of them, they don't get recognized for that. It's always about teachers, never about school counselors. And school counselors are the ones that are really helping in the background to make sure the kids are in class, to make sure that that they're doing well in class. And so, we wanted to create an association that was run by school counselors, for school counselors, and all about school counselors. And so everything we try to train in the Lone Star is about what are some of your things that you're facing, what are you facing? Here are some answers that somebody else has discovered. So whatever little nugget of knowledge they can pick up, that's what we want and implement right away. We don't want them to come and walk away empty handed. So we want to roll out the red carpet for our counselors and let them know we're here for you. We support you. We recognize you, and we do honor our counselors. I know as a director of school counselors, one of the things I told my group, I said, you know what? I said, school counselors are never honored in anything. We had teacher of the year, we had principal of the year, we had assistant principal of the year, we even had a teacher assistant of the year. I said, where's the school counselor in all of this? So we implemented the school counselor of the year in Dallas, and that ran for many years that I was there because I felt it was important. And now we get to do that again statewide, where we recognize outstanding school counseling programs throughout Texas and outstanding school counselors throughout Texas. And those that are named or outstanding counselors, we get to nominate them to go into the national level. So we have a lot of schools in Texas that are at the national level known as ramp winners that have outstanding school counseling programs. And then we've had, in our short time, we've had 4 outstanding school counselors that's made the national level, the top 5. So we're proud. We're proud because I know they're here. Texas is a big state, and we have so many jewels just all over Texas that we always want to highlight.
Oh, incredible. Incredible. That recognition that school counselors so deserve. Certainly present day, I'm thinking, gosh, teachers, administrators, the equation isn't balancing out in terms of pressures that they're getting from the external parties and recognition or appreciation. How do you think schools and educators, counselors, administrators ought to be dealing with all of the pressures coming at them from external parties in 2024?
Yeah, and it goes all the way to Texas legislatures too. That puts a lot of pressure on our school districts with no funding. So that's another thing.
Yes.
That we have to remember that that the administrators are not trained as school counselors, and so even though they know mental health is important, they may know good discipline in the school is important, coming to school is important. And CCMR, which is college career readiness and military, is important. They know the importance of it, and they want things to flow, but they don't realize how much work it takes on the back end, especially from school counselors that are doing the work. It takes a whole village of people working on that in your school. And so the external pressures are real. And I can speak for school counselors that it's real for them because administrators, they haven't been trained as school counselors. So it's hard for them to live in the world of a school counselor because that's not their training. Their training is seeing good teaching and data and making a success, but they don't have that training. So I've always said a great administrator has always been a counselor at one time or another because they understand school counseling and they can understand the world of that school counselors. But I think it's important even now that that we train administrators and we let them know the work that a real, true, passionate school counselor will really, they'll see an improvement in their attendance and their achievement and the mental health and social emotional learning. All of that will improve if they allow a school counselor to do what they're trained to do, and that's work with students.
Yes, it leverages the work of everyone in the building when they're freed up to do what they do best. I love it. So talk to us, when you look across your career, what sustained you? What gave you oxygen as a dedicated educator, counselor?
Well, remember when I said when someone says I can't, I'm going to show them differently. I think that was just something that I always had in mind, and the fact that I love being in education. I love being around students. They, they make me laugh, you know, especially in middle school. There, that's a whole different breed of kids there. But I loved my middle school when I was principal there. But yeah, that just drive the kids, seeing kids, and I tell people this. I said my favorite time of the day was the lunchroom. Everybody hates the lunchroom as an adult. For me, it was fun because I got to see the kids in the natural environment of talking to each other. You got to see those that were happy and enjoying whatever they were saying. And then you got to see those that were sitting by themselves or those that nobody wanted to even be around, you know. So you got to see all of that in the lunchroom. And oftentimes I would find those kids that were by themselves and I'd go sit with them and just start conversation with them. And then before I know it, I would ask someone, hey, do you know this person I'm sitting with? They go, no. I said, this is so and so. Why don't y'all come sit here and talk to him? And they would start talking. You know, and sometimes it just takes someone introducing them to other people as well, like that. So, the lunchroom, you got to see the real, raw kids there in the lunchroom and how they behave.
I love that that's the story that came out of you with that question because it links so perfectly to your earlier comments about if you keep the well-being of the students front of mind, you rarely make a wrong move. Like it's just such a North Star.
Right. Exactly. And I learned that from my boss. I just adore him. I learned a lot of things from people that had experience in this world, and I was just a baby principal trying to learn it, to figure it out. And you know, when you're a principal, that's a huge responsibility that's laid on your shoulders. Not only do you have to make sure your school's doing well, but you got to make sure there's safety among your kids. Your kids are safe. Your teachers are safe. You got to make sure you have a well-oiled machine running at all times. I tell you, just going to my school, it was like a prayer before school. You know, just help us get through this day, and then the prayer afterwards. Thank you that we made it, because you never know when something horrible could happen. You never know that, so you always have to be prepared. That but you hope that everybody is relaxed. As a principal, you carry that. You know, you're never unprepared because you're always looking. And I guess that's what makes me very observant of people. I'm very observant. When I go to a meeting, I don't know people. I observe behavior. I may not say much, but I'm constantly observing people's mannerism, behaviors, that kind of stuff. So it's a big responsibility, and as a principal, I understand that, and they need help too. They need someone to listen to them. They need someone that they can trust to, and they have no one. When you're a principal, you're kind of an island by yourself. So it's a hard job, very hard job.
Your description of it is so visceral. It makes me aware of like the challenges of the actual day to day, but then just the heaviness of all the things that could happen and carrying that largely as an island of one, because you don't want to, you know, create more headaches or work for the people who report to you. It's a big ask.
It's huge responsibility, boss.
Sylvia, as we're kind of wrapping up, if you had to summarize what you feel like in education these days breaks your heart and inspires you, what comes to mind?
Things that inspire me are the kids who just want to follow their dreams and do something. And with this new business I started with 501c3, my Thriving Hearts and Minds, that's when I see these kids, that's what I get from them. And we start off that conversation with, what is your dream? What do you love to do? Because I know had someone told me that when I was a senior in high school, I might not have started off as a secretary, learning how to be a good secretary, you know, because that wasn't really my dream. I just thought that's what I had to do, you know. And I was always told I wasn't smart enough, so I figured, okay, maybe I can do just that, you know. But but no one ever said, other than my dad, who kept talking to me about, you know, don't let anyone tell you who you are. You tell them who you are, you know, and to go for it. And he loved education. He wanted me to succeed, and he just didn't know. Unfortunately, he died before he knew I got my doctorate. So, you know, and he would say, he was the dad that would tell me, do you have something to do tonight? I said, no, I was going to help mom with supper. And he said, no, you can write or go read, go do that instead. I'll help over here. I am like, oh, okay. So I would take off. But he just wanted me to have a better life. And and I owe a lot to my father and my grandfather. And if we had time, I could tell you a whole story about my grandfather and his Rizzo rants. And I think that's just part of our DNA. And I see that with young people. There are people like that I see and I go, oh, they got that little it factor. They've got that little DNA that says, I'm going to do this. And that's what I've seen. And that makes me happy. The things that scares me is that we're losing our school counselors. Well, it doesn't scare me, but I'm very concerned because even when I go into the colleges and I say, how many folks do you have in your school counseling program, which are very different from mental health counselors? And it always is the smallest number. Mental health is growing, which is great. We need mental health providers, but school counselors, they're not there like they used to be. And that concerns me because our kids need school counselors. They're school counselors, they're in charge of their achievement, they're in charge of their attendance, they're in charge of their CCMR, they're in charge of their transcripts, making sure they get in the right classes. I mean, they're in charge of a whole bunch of stuff. And then just teaching them how to be great people. And so that concerns me that I hope and pray that counseling isn't a dying breed. But that is one of my big concerns because in colleges, I see less and less people coming out as school counselors. They're coming out as mental health counselors, but not school counselors. A big difference.
And that's one of the things that's really coming out of this conversation is that it is a unique profession, desperately needed, unique profession. It's not just like plug mental health person in here. It's a very specialized course.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because mental health person who is trained to be a mental health therapist, they don't know about transcripts. They don't know how to manage a classroom. Do they know how to create lesson plans on how to deal with bullying or suicide? You know, so those are the things that we teach kids. And mental health providers are more in a one-to-one. School counselors do classroom assemblies, they do classrooms, they do small groups, and one-to-one. So we are big, we do a variety of stuff.
Amazing. We're going to do like some rapid fire questions that are just for fun. But before we do that, will you talk about Thriving Hearts and Minds and College on the Go and tell people where they can find out more about your current business?
Okay. Thriving Hearts and Minds is it goes back to a dream I had in 2009. And I tell people this dream just woke me up like at 2:30 in the morning. And I started jotting down what I visually saw. And I even wrote College on the Go because those were the words that came in my dream too. And that was in 2009. I kept looking at that. So I have no idea what that means. And so here it is, 2024. and I'm now just opening up, thriving hearts and mind. Like I said, when the heart's breaking, the mind stops thinking, you know. So it goes back to that idea and the fact that there were three buckets that I thought was so important. And one was that to fund any counselor that is having a hard time going to a state conference, that Thriving Hearts and Mind could fund 2 night stay at the hotel plus registration, and at least they can get some learning, some knowledge from that conference. That's one bucket. The second bucket was the dream itself, College on the Go, which is to train not only the juniors and seniors, but the parents who probably do not have time to go see a counselor or have no idea what FAFSA means or what college application deadlines are, you know, all of that. So we created a book that we give to the students that they can have, and it has many resources in it, things for them to jot down, and it's their journey. It's their journey from junior year to when they enter into college. So that's the second part. We like to meet with parents and the kids in the evenings away from school so they don't think it's another school thing. But it's something different where parents feel comfortable asking those questions that they didn't know what to ask, perhaps, or how to ask. So we kind of break it down, make it very informal for them. And then that's the second bucket. The third bucket is the last bucket, and that's again working with our students that are freshmen in college and giving them the social emotional tools, a mental health toolkit that we're developing right now. And what do they need? Because just like me being a high school, I didn't know who to go to, who would listen to me. Nobody believed in me. Well, our kids are, some of them are doing that too. They don't know who to go to. College is a whole different world from a high school. So they don't know who to go to, who to talk to. What do I do if, you know, those kind of things. So that's where we want to come in and help those freshmen so that they don't drop out of school, that they can continue, because it does get better as you go along.
Gosh, amazing and so needed, so needed. Incredible. How can people connect with you? Is there a website or?
Well, we're working on my website right now. Currently, it's not done yet, but it is being made. But right now, people who know me, they just call me. Many directors from different cities will just call and say, "Hey, can we have a session here or two?" So that's how I'm gonna, you know, eventually it'll be out there through social media and all that. But I'm not there yet. But it's
Okay,
moving.
good. Well, people can keep their eyes and ears open for Thriving Hearts and Mind. College on the Go is one of the 3 programs. Incredible. Are you ready for some fun rapid fires?
Okay, this is gonna be tough.
So these are not tough, but they are designed for you to just say what comes to your mind.
Okay,
You ready?
good.
Okay, we're going to get to know you in a big way right now with this first one, Sylvia. What is your go-to snack?
My go-to snack. Oh, this feels corny. It's those little mandarin oranges.
That I get it. Those are so good. How many can you put away in one sitting? They're very small.
They're very small. I usually try to stick to 2 a day, but you know, that mandarin oranges is my go-to.
That's very healthy. Nice. This one could be a little harder, but what's the most frequent thing you hear people say about you?
Frequent thing. Oh wow, that's weird. That I'm a nice person.
What?
Well, I'm a
We were
nice
talking
person.
earlier about you. We were talking earlier about you, and Chris said she has never met a single person who doesn't love you.
Oh,
And I've had that same experience. Like, you're just universally adored. So I'm not surprised that's what came to mind. Okay, dogs or cats?
Dog.
Yeah, same, same. Do you have a favorite season?
Oh, yes. Fall. Right now.
Okay, we're
But I
in
want
it.
it cooler.
Yay.
I want it cooler
Yes,
than fall.
the weather needs to start acting like fall. That would be good. And
Exactly.
then last one, do you have a favorite quote or saying, something that frequently pops into your mind?
Oh, my favorite quote, but I've got a bunch of them. Oh, this one, do not put off things for today. I mean, do not put off things for tomorrow that you can do today.
Ooh, that one hits me right in the heart. I need to put that one into action more. Thank you so much, Sylvia. Is there anything I failed to ask you about that you want to make sure we include?
Oh no, I think you hit all parts of the star here. So, but thank you. You were wonderful.
Thank you, Sylvia. Thank you for your incredible career. If I were you, I would want to like wrap myself in copies of my doctorate diploma and go find that woman who said that you were going to drop out of high school and just show her your diploma dress. That's what I think needs to happen.
And a lot of people tell me that. He said, "Do you ever want to go back to your hometown?" And they go, "No, no, 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 no." I said, "No, I wouldn't dare do that." But you know what?
But we can enjoy.
My dad was so, it's so funny now. My dad was so proud of me when I got my master's at SMU. He took out a whole page out with my picture on it and everything. I said, so I don't have to tell people, Daddy did it for me.
Oh,
And that was just with my master's.
Oh my gosh. Well, what was his name?
My dad's name is
Yeah.
V.C. Dominguez. Dominguez was
Beautiful.
my name. Yeah.
Beautiful. So he was so proud. Oh my gosh. And that was master's. Did he know you were working also on your doctorate? Was he still alive when you started your doctorate?
No, he that passed away before that. But he was such a proud man, and I said, "Oh my God, Dad!" I was embarrassed, and Dad says, "Why are you embarrassed? I love that. I get to tell everybody." He had it all pinned up.
He was like, "You earned this." Oh,
So,
I love it. Oh,
but you know, it's about breaking that cycle, because I was the first in that entire Dominguez family to go to college, and now all my little cousins behind me, and now my grandsons, everybody, they're now stepping, my daughters, they all stepped into that college world, but there's always have to be one to break that cycle.
yeah, incredible. And it started with your dad saying, "You define you. Nothing anyone says defines you. You define you." And then now generations behind you are already on a whole different path. What an incredible legacy for him and for you.
One.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Sylvia. It was such a joy to spend time with you and just hear a little bit about your story. I want the book, so get to writing so we can read all about your story. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Michele. You were great.
Okay, friends, welcome back. Hope you enjoyed that conversation with Sylvia Lopez, the one and only Sylvia Lopez. And
The very resilient Sylvia Lopez.
you know, it's so funny you hit that word straight out of the gate, because that's what is so resonant for me, her resilience, and then how she took that and almost like I kept thinking of this notion of like a resilience midwife. Like she's this resilience midwife for all of these students, then all of these counselors, then systems. And anyway, what jumped for you?
I can't stop thinking about her as the 7th grader at school, having someone say she's going to get pregnant and not make it. I can't get my brain around the Sylvia that I know having that experience.
Yeah.
It's painful. painful. And what she did with it is remarkable.
Yeah, and her father's role in it was so touching. But I do want to like not like move too fast off of how sad it is that that was her experience and how real that that was the experience of many young girls and especially girls of color. And then what does that mean? Like there's such a celebration of her resilience, and also underneath that there's a like just a little bubbling of, you know, gentle rage that she had to be resilient.
And that it's still happening.
Mm-hmm.
That people are still dealing with that. And I also thought her description of almost like carving out students and creating the haves and the have-nots, and it's just the haves who could make it to college and then those who couldn't, and separating them in that way and offering different levels of resources that way.
Yeah.
That's almost impossible to overcome. And I think that visual makes me want to give as much support to anyone who's listening so that they can be the Mr. Dominguez that her father was to her, to other people, to other kids, because you need that. And if she didn't have her dad and have it inside of her, maybe all the amazing work that she's done in the world couldn't have happened.
Mm-hmm. And I was heartened by the fact that even in the face of some of those circumstances, that one powerful voice shifted her entire trajectory. Then she has shifted the trajectory of so many people with her powerful presence and powerful voice. And there's so much going on in education right now that I think is flooding for people. It's like, how can I make a difference in the midst of this storm? And I hope that the oxygen from this episode is, well, you definitely do make a difference. Every single interaction you have with a student where they feel seen and known and supported and believed in is not a little thing.
That's another thing that jumped out at me, was how educators often don't have the opportunity to see the fruits of their labor, as she said. And how do you stay in such a difficult environment? How do you stay focused on your why you got in it in the first place, and the meaning and the outcome that you're building when you can't see it?
Yeah. You don't get that instant gratification that might happen in other jobs, that you're playing the longest game.
So what would advice be for people listening? How do you stay focused on the why to keep going?
I know I want Sylvia here to answer.
How did she do it? I know that's the question. How did she do it? I don't know how she did it.
She kept saying in the interview that she was fueled by people not thinking she could, over and over in her life, like that kind of like righteous indignation was like fuel for her, the I'll show you energy, which is just so remarkable that fueled this woman who presents with like such grace and kindness and humility. And I hope that's another sort of sip of oxygen for folks, is like righteous indignation and grace can live in the same body. And yeah.
Well, and she also talked about how she focused on remembering that the student was her number one client. Like that was who she was. She talked about that in using different sets of words more than once. So I think that, as you say, righteous indignation paired with keeping that child front and center, those two things together, are what kept her going.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that would be such an interesting thing to source from educators, is like, what is it that keeps you laser focused on the students and laser focused on your why and fuels you as you go through your day, even though there are these external things that make it challenging. Like, I would just be so curious what everyone has to say.
I also was thinking about when I listened to the interview, how and where could those students that they did touch their lives, how could we get those stories to them so they could hear those stories, you know? And it's not just when she described running into a student who's, you know, went up, and I my mom is a former educator, and she's had so many of those experiences. When that student does come up, it's just like a whole entire visual shift.
That is such a Chris thing to think. Like,
why?
Because like next week, there'll probably be a website up where people can drop their "this educator made a difference in my life" stories.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Whose would yours be? What teacher comes to mind for you?
Oh my goodness. Okay. I had so many, especially when I was older, teachers and counselors that shaped me. My earliest memory is a 6th grade science teacher. I think her name was Miss Bartek, and we were in a line doing like a quiz kind of, but it was almost like gamified. She'd kind of gamified this quiz thing, and everybody was going and taking their turn. And as I came up, she said, "Oh, I've been waiting for you because you're really smart." And I was like, she spoke identity into me. And I began to think about myself as smart. And then I sort of leaned into that the whole rest of my educational career. That was a throwaway comment for her, I'm sure. When I was leading Momentous, we often talked about like their like interactions are either positive, negative, or missed. And don't miss them. Like that was an interaction that was so positive, and she could have just as easily missed it. But
I hope she listens to this podcast and hears that.
I wonder where she is. Oh gosh.
I love
What about you? What about you?
Mine is, and I still use this all the time, but there was a woman who said to me when I was dealing with like mean girl stuff at school, she said, just wake up and say to yourself, in the realm of the universe, does this really matter? And it put it in perspective. Yeah. And so I say that all the time. And then it was said back to me when I was pregnant with Emma. Christine said to me, your job as a parent is to help her understand when she gets to the 6th grade. By the time she gets to 6th grade, she understands the world is bigger than that cafeteria table. Oh, that was the way she said it to me. Oh, and I think it's really important to do that. Yeah.
Were you in 6th grade when that teacher said that to you? Or 8th. Okay, so you were in 8th. I was in 8th. Yeah. My mom used to tell us, if this isn't going to matter in 10 years, release it. And that's a lot of stuff.
That's often.
There's a lot of stuff that would fit in that category.
Yeah.
I love that.
I wonder, because that's really been like a mantra for me. I wonder if Sylvia had a mantra. Like, was there something that she said, or, I mean, her dad said something in the interview, you get to decide who you're going to be. Is that the quote?
I wrote that down because it was so powerful.
You decide who you are.
Yes.
That's what she said, you decide who you are.
Okay. I'm looking at my notes because I wanted to see if we could pull the exact quote. But yeah, I think it was what you just said. Nobody tells you who you are. You decide who you are. Something like that. You know, the other thing.
Never let anybody tell you who you are. You decide who you are. Yeah.
That's so powerful.
It's good. I think it's important to have like a phrase like that that you fall back on when you need to be caught.
What's yours? Do you have one?
I mean, that has, in hard times, that's often been one. Okay, so what I say every morning when I put on the Buddha Girl bracelets.
Yeah.
I have 6. and you're supposed to repeat your intention, I always say, I want to be a kind, one bracelet, compassionate, one bracelet, defender of truth. That's what I say.
Oh, every single morning, that's one of your rituals. I want to be a kind, compassionate defender of truth. Well, you are. So they're working.
Thank you. Love those bracelets.
So good.
What else came up for you?
I really liked when she said, when the heart is breaking, the mind stops thinking.
I wanted to ask you, your response to that was neuroscience in a nutshell. Talk more about that.
Yeah, because when we get triggered into a survival state, we're only preoccupied with survival. And that shuts down parts of our brain that do our best thinking, our best learning, build relationships, empathy, joy. Like so many higher order aspects of living in a human body get shut down when the heart is breaking. And so it's like, yeah, that's exactly what happens. We stop thinking. So it's kind of charging the educators in the building to offer themselves what they offer the kids, because so many educators, they really get that for their kids. They understand that they're dealing with this whole little human who might need support around X, Y, or Z before they can do their best thinking or learning. But I find when I'm out speaking that very often they do not offer themselves that same grace. It's just kind of like, yeah, my heart's breaking, and what feels available to me as a strategy is just to keep, double down and fake it till I make it. But that's not sustainable.
So advice to educators when they feel themselves in that space, what do they do? Like what are a few just go-tos?
What came to my brain immediately when you said that is just Kristen Neff's self-compassion work. Just to begin to kind of loosen the knot around what we expect of ourselves. And in her self-compassion work, she talks about acknowledging our suffering, understanding that suffering is a universal experience and we're not exempt from it. And then extending kindness and warmth to ourselves as we would to a friend. And operationalizing that feels very foreign to some people, and then they abandon it because it feels like a coat that's too small, because we're not used to creating that safety for ourselves in the same way we do for the kids in our classroom or schools. So my advice to educators is, if you're trying something new that stretches into that living in service of your nervous system space and the coat feels too small because that's not been your baseline, that's not been the space you're living in, just keep doing it. Like eventually that's going to feel different. And it's like David Emerald in his 3 Vital Questions work talks about that you're literally downloading a new operating system. And so it feels so awkward at first. And when you're really stressed and overwhelmed and something feels awkward, it's so easy to dismiss it and just be like, this is just how it's going to be. And there is no exit for me from this level of stress and frustration. And my advice would be trust someone who has traveled that path, that there absolutely is an alternative reality for everyone listening who is feeling stressed and frustrated and overwhelmed and like there isn't another way. And then just do these baby experiments, maybe starting with self-compassion. And maybe also the conversation we had at the beginning of the podcast, holding that question, what does my nervous system need right now?
I love it.
What about you? Would you add anything from your perspective about a starting point?
Well, I don't think I'm good at it. I'm still learning. So no, I wouldn't. I think I ask you these questions all the time because you've done it. And I think it's hard to get started. It's like, I mean, I appreciate the 30 extra minutes in the bathtub because that's a strategy. That's a thing you can do.
Listen, it was 30 seconds.
Seconds.
Yeah.
30 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or morning pages, that idea that you gave to me. Like, those aren't things that people who haven't had your training know to do.
Yeah.
And I think busy educators, do they have the time to stop and think about what to do? I mean, some do, counselors do, but not, I mean, administrators, teachers, this is all new territory for them. And so the how is hard.
I get it. And even for those of us who know, like the counselors in the systems and in the buildings, in the face of such high need situations with students or communities, it's so easy to abandon what you know because you just see the need. And so the instinct is to just pour yourself out until there's nothing left to give. And the call to action from nervous system work is fuel yourself so that your natural gifts can flow through and offer something of value to the world.
This is actually something else that jumped out of Sylvia's interview to me when she said she wanted to be better for her students and be able to be there for her students in a different way. So as a principal, she went back and got her counseling, did her counseling work and got her PhD and did all these things. Not everybody can take that path. So it's, what is that mini crash course in counseling that if I'm a superintendent or I'm a classroom teacher, what do I need to know that would help me be better for my kids?
Yeah. And I'll tell you, the number one thing any of us can do in education, in life, period, is regulate our own nervous system. It's the single biggest gift we can give ourselves, and it's the single biggest gift we can give the people around us.
Drop the mic.
Awesome. Well, I say we wrap, and we'll be excited to join you all again soon with another interview. Please subscribe, please rate, please give us your comments, your questions, suggestions of who we might interview. We want to be in deep conversation with all of you so that this truly serves the incredible educators across the country. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Michele. That was fun.
It was. I'll see you soon.
Okay, bye.
Bye. That's it for today's episode of Oxygen for Educators. If you found value in this episode, consider sharing it with a colleague or friend. Please rate and subscribe so we can stay in conversation. And please let us hear from you if you have a suggestion for a topic or know of an educator we should interview. And thanks for all you do out there.